Alright guys, welcome back to my channel. Today I have a tutorial for you guys. This is a major color correction, but it's going to be color correcting on a budget. This is not what I would consider in-house color correction that I do, because there's multiple steps, normally like a whole 12-hour day, but this is my good friend Ginny, and we're going to do the best we can for one session to see how it lifts and to do it on our budget. So first and foremost, I want to just go in. She's on a budget anyway, which is perfect because I wouldn't want to go in and just do a full, tightly packed, sinful blonding technique. So what I'm going to do is something different. It's not my sinful technique at all, something you rarely ever see me do, but I think this is perfect for her. It's a budget color, and it's also a color correction, so we don't know what's going to happen. What she did is she went in with a 7RR, is what I'm assuming, or around that in a professional level. She did it with obviously not a professional color line, and put it all over after she bleached. So now we have to go in and deal with the fading of the orange and the red that's still in there. There's a light band on the top of her head where you can actually see it turns blonde right there, because that was the hot root. And then she has about 1.5 inches, 2 inches of new regrowth with her level 3-4. So now there's a lot of things to do. So what I'm going to do is take 20 volume Joico Blonde Life, my holy grail lightener, with a 16th ounce of Olaplex, of course, as always. Go in and do a regular traditional highlight. That's right, I never have done that really on my channel. Brett Ryan is doing a typical regular traditional highlight, guys. This is not a sinful technique, back to back to back to back, growing out of your head look. We're not going to do that. We want to keep that dimension in there because, as I said, we're on a budget. We can only do a partial highlight. So I'm going to leave bigger subsections like a traditional highlight would, and I am going to do a dimensional stitch, a regular traditional highlight stitch, which would be, in my sinful technique, would be the thicker stitch, traditional highlight up and down kind of a look. That will allow some dimension to poke through. We're also going to do a paint between, but I'll get to all that when we get there. Right now we're just going to go through and do our traditional highlight partial foil style. Also, I want to note that, as you can see, I am not going all the way up on the foil with the highlight. I am feathering up on most of them, but it's very tricky. I want to kind of do like a rooted look. Around the hairline, I do very packed back-to-back sinful, hairline look, because I like to do that no matter what when I am doing a regular highlight or a dimensional look, because I feel like if you do a thicker stitch around the hairline, you will see gaps, you'll see dark patches, and it just doesn't look right. And I have to make sure I do touch that virgin hair to an extent, because I can't leave any of that yellow in there. I technically could and just cover the red, but it's so inconsistent everywhere, so I'm just going to play it safe and do it the way that I chose to do it. So slowing it down, you can see that new growth right here in the back. It doesn't have that yellow ring as much, but that's right around where it would be as I point with my comb. You can see me going in and doing a traditional highlight up and down kind of stitch. That will allow that dimension to flow through, and then just keep watching. Just another note, she did use a box dyed color, so we all know anyway, red is one of the hardest to get out of the hair. We put Men on the Moon, but we don't have a red color that will actually last long and not wash out quick, but still come out of the hair easy when you bleach it. But what I have to say is saturation is so important. You see I'm taking my brush and wiping left, right, making sure that all that hair is really being saturated, because we really want to get the best lift that we possibly can get. And I am going in with just 20 volume. I didn't want to do anything higher on her. She previously bleached her hair for the red color, so I want to be as safe as possible. And just so you guys know, we did do a second round 3 weeks later. This was shot about 2 months ago or so. So I do have part 2 coming, and I think I'm going to put it out next week. Alright, so pay close attention because this is where all the color expert stuff that I do comes into play. A lot of people think hairdressers just sit around and play with hair all day, and it is so far from the truth. So much chemistry, so much color theory, everything goes into it. So as you see, we have that root area where she has that 2 inches of new regrowth that's virgin hair. We have a little band of maybe 1 inch or less of yellow, more so towards the front, the sides. The back is not as bad or underneath. But because that place in the area between that fresh root and between the real red old permanent color that's faded with orange has that yellow on there, that hair has been exposed too much. You cannot go in with a neutral or anything ash because that will turn muddy or green. So now what I have to do is take 2 different formulas. So I'm applying for the first 1 to 3 inches the 5N Joico Lumishine with 5 volume dedicated. That's our paint between for the root area into the mids. I have to do that because if I take my second formula and it touches that blonde that has a little bit of yellow to it, it will turn muddy. Then I take my second formula, which is Redken Shades EQ. I mixed up, I believe, 6GN, which is a green neutral for any of that reddish. I added a little 6N for neutralization, 6ABN, which is another cool toned ash brown, and then I went in with 6NCH. That's all my formula for the mids to ends, and I mixed it with 10 volume. That was Redken Shades EQ, and Joico Lumishine 5 volume with 5N on the root area. So I'm still making my way around the head, applying my formula, same thing everywhere. I'm going to show you a scene right now coming up where you can actually see the side of the head and towards the front, where you can see it got a little bit more blonde, a little bit more yellow. And I'm going to zoom in a little closer so you can see why I have to go in and do the difference between the two colors. You can see it's a little bit more lighter up there right after the virgin area. So I'm taking that 5N, bringing it down, and then I'm going to meet them in the middle, merge them on top of each other, mush them in together, and truly, truly blend out this color. Guys, I quickly want to jump on here and say, I did say earlier that you can't use a neutral or an ash tone on that area that has that light color that's almost yellow, because it will go muddy or green. But I do want to talk about this because you notice I'm using a 5N Joico Lumishine on that area without any warmth. The reason I'm able to get away with it with the Joico Lumishine is because I've used it for many years of my career, and I find that Joico does run way warmer than a real neutral. So I figured by doing that 5N, it would be totally fine, and it was. But in another situation, if I was using Shades EQ, I would definitely add an NB or a GB or something G in there, just so that it would fill it a little bit more, because Shades runs cooler. Don't let the process and how dark it looks scare you. I went with level 6s, but there's a lot of ash in that formula on the dropout, so it's going to look way darker than it's really going to be. We are not going to be able to get rid of all that red today. If we went in with a permanent color, most likely, but we're using Demi permanent, which I always suggest, because eventually we want to go lighter when she gets more money and has a bigger budget. So what I'm doing now is I'm going to go in and root shadow those highlights, and I'm also going to go over the whole head with this root shadow formula, just to ensure that where that weak blonde ridge area was after the virgin hair, it's really, really filled really well and will last and not fade out and get too light again on us and have a weird spot. So I'm going in with Joico Lumishine. It's very opaque. I like it. It covers really well. I really, really missed using Joico. I've been using it a lot lately again for rooting and lowlights. But I went in with 6N and 5NA equal parts, and we're just going to continue going around the head, root shadowing her, tapping very, very lightly around the hairline, and then we'll get to toning real soon. Alright guys, it got late. I forgot to record the toning footage, but I did 8N, 8V, 8GI, and a little bit of 9G, and we are obsessed. This is the final result. There's still red in there. Like I said, trust the process. I knew there was still going to be. We didn't want to take her too dark to really kick it out, because like I said, we're going to end up going lighter. Part 2 is coming up next week. Please let me know videos you want to see down below in the comment section. I love you guys so much. As always, so long for now, guys.